Have you ever been to Hardee's? I haven't. However, my father used to hang out there all the time. He worked as a fry cook and dishwasher because the owner was too cheap to buy a machine that wasn't a vibrator that he hid under a desk in his office. Anyway, Daddy told me he had just poured in the fry oil and was whistling Steamboat Willie to himself when a customer violated store policy and ran his way through the back door. His eyes were bulging. Pink rimmed heart shaped sunglasses were on his head. He had a bad hair day, like a buzz cut shaved by Mr. Magoo himself. I need service, the homeless looking man barked like a dog. My father poured him a free vat of fries into his hands, and although there was a scream as his hands melted in the steaming grease and oil, he was able to ignore it and head off to the customer service area to assist with whoever needed the service. There, at a clearly unclean table littered with unwashed dishes, dirt, sandwich wrappings, and used condom packets, sat a man in a mangled Papa Smurf mascot costume, smoking a cigarette and patting a chihuahua on the head, allowing it to lick week old hamburger meat off of his fuzzy, furry fingers. Now, this was the 80s, so smoking indoors was cool. Regardless, my father lied, like when he insisted to my mom that I wasn't his son. Sir, you can't smoke in here, he fibbed to Father Smurf. Now, as Daddy told me, you may not be able to see what some guy inside of an animal outfit is really feeling. But it's kind of like ESP. You feel it, and you can smell it. So it was at that moment that Dad had to hold his nostrils because Papa Smurf literally smelled like shit. Sir, there is a bathroom over there, he exclaimed, pointing to the men's room door. Admittedly, there was no bathroom because this was the deep south, and the bathrooms just let outside by an old oak tree. But that was beside the point. Follow me, Papa Smurf retorted, mumbling under his breath in a cigarette voice and stabbing himself repeatedly with a lit cigarette in the heart of his fur costume. Papa Smurf didn't get up and go anywhere, so that didn't make much sense. Father took his seat to ask the man about himself and how life ended up this way, loitering at a fast food joint and pretending to be a B tier children's cartoon character when he stared out of the corner of his eye. Was that a child or just a midget? Either way, it was a little person in a brainy Smurf costume, Buddy Holly glasses, Book of Mormon, everything. I need you here, Papa Smurf muttered, holding my father down, while the dog ran over to Brainy and the teeny tiny nerd flipped a red lever that was sticking out of the lottery ticket vending machine. Father fell through a hole in the floor and let out a cartoon scream as he fell a sudden thump, and his neck snapped and contorted out of place. When he woke up, the dog was licking up his neck blood. There wasn't much of it because he didn't have much of it. Papa Smurf was standing diagonally away from him by a bookshelf of adult rated comics and videotapes. He stomped out his cigarette and approached my father, who had been bound and gagged somehow. I need you to know something, Papa Smurf coarsely babbled. He stretched out an arm of his costume and touched a bookshelf, which flipped around, and out popped a blue skinned, blonde haired woman with a white, deflated looking chef's hat. Oh, damn. It was Smurfette. Phew. I want you to know something. Papa Smurf took out a dart and started sucking on it. It pierced his tongue, his actual human tongue, and blood started splarting all over the basement floor. Life is like a dart. It is sharp and pointed, and it hurts like hell. But sometimes when
you throw it.
Papa Smurf heaved the dart at a dartboard crookedly hanging from the wall across from the adult-themed bookcase. The dart fell against the slice of the fuzzy board with a value of 2 and then hit the floor.
Shit, that was supposed to be a bullseye.
Move, actual father yelled, again, gagged. Papa Smurf ignored him worse than Dad's restaurant manager when he needed time and a half for Hanukkah.
Anyway, this is the consequence of living.
Papa Smurf stabbed himself clearly through the costume, right through his heart, with a dart that was longer than any tetanus needle from any doctor's office Father would have ever been to if Hardee's actually paid health care. Papa Smurf held his heart with his fuzzy, furry costume hands as he dramatically fell to the ground, arms outstretched, legs outstretched. A puddle of blood pooled around him on the floor below him. Papa Smurf was dead. Or at least a guy in a Papa Smurf costume. Father eventually finagled the Swiss Army knife Grandpappy gifted him when he was in the Boy Scouts out of his pocket and managed to cut his way through the ropes. He stared over to Smurfette, who immediately responded by smacking the bookcase and flipping through the wall again. Papa knew he needed to call the police, but Hardee's never pays the phone bill and there was no chance of service. Thus, he did the only thing he could do. What he had to do. He slapped the bookcase himself and took a ride. Broke on through to the other side, but not through any door he had ever known. Father ran his way through torchlit caverns of bats, rats, spiders, and random little people in various Smurf costumes. Hefty, clumsy, jokey, and mildew. They were all there, smiling, laughing. They weren't like Papa Smurf, but rather like Smurfette. They were like teeny tiny goblins with pointed ears, stunning blue skin, like rejects from the Blue Man Group musical and theatrical project. Papa swiped a torch from the wall to set any of them on fire should they have approached, even if murdering a Smurf is probably on par with actual murder of an actual human being. Maybe if you're liberal. Finally, he stumbled his way, tired, thirsty, out of breath, to a royal red carpet that led to a golden throne. The sides of the carpet were adjacent to knight statues in shining armor, crested in various jewels, topaz, sapphire, amethyst, emerald. However, the farther Father ran, the statues became smaller, tinier, bluer, including the jewels. Upon closer inspection, they were cheap, worthless Happy Meal toy trinkets. Happy Meal toys below a Hardee's? Father was disgusted. When Father made it to the golden throne, an elderly bald man in a black robe with warts on his nose called out to him, "Yo, bitch, what you do with my cat?" Huh? Strange. Gargamel of the Smurfs didn't speak straight. Father threw his torch at him and set him on fire. As Gargamel screamed and melted like the Wicked Witch of the West, he turned into an adorable black cat.
My name is Smurfette. Thank you for setting me free and saving me from a Hardee's horrible fate. Meow.
She screeched out like a kitty if a kitten could talk and ran off into the distance on all fours. Before being out of sight in the distance, Daddy could make out the kitty licking her paws and sitting down on a big blue button on the floor. sandwiched between two suits of armor that looked a lot like Ronald McDonald and Jack in the Box. Father gaped as a slab of mossy brick wall slowly rumbled open behind the sorcerer's throne, and the shocking truth was finally revealed. A boiling pot of blue liquid that stunk to high heaven, like a fat man with an awful diet's fecal matter. But worse, and written in Gothic styling on the side of the cauldron were words Father would never forget for the rest of his life. Hardee's ingredients are made out of Smurf cum.